Investigation. Now, honeymooner George Smith disappeared 3 months ago from Royal Caribbean's Brilliance of the Seas between Greece and Turkey. We sent a Scarborough Country producer aboard that ship in the Mediterranean. Tonight he takes us inside the Smith cabin with our exclusive footage and into the heart of the investigation. With me now with that is producer Rich McHugh, and we also have two other investigators who were on that ship, former FBI agent Clint Van Zandt and Chief Walt Zalisco. Rich, let me start with you. The big question is, how did George Smith IV die? Cruise lines, as you know, Rich, love to say that it was either a drunk who fell overboard accidentally, right, or it's somebody who tried to commit suicide. You actually measured how long the fall was from George's cabin to the awning. Could he have killed himself from that short distance? How long was it?
Well, it was approximately 21 feet. I measured in inches and actually pulled up the string and weight that I used to measure it, and then measured it in my room. And it was a little bit over 21 feet, 20 and a quarter. But, you know, the thing I was thinking when I was standing on that balcony, number one, I measured the railing, and that was about 4 feet tall. So it would have been very hard to be pushed over that. And then if you were to fall onto that awning that you're seeing right now, I just couldn't get it past in my head that would create, that would lead me to die. I couldn't see it. Absolutely.
You know, there was a huge pool of blood also. Again, with a fall from that distance, which certainly wouldn't have made him feel any better when he got to the bottom of it. But again, that picture that you got a hold of from a passenger, right, that showed the pool of blood. Certainly, again, is that consistent with a fall of 21 feet from what you saw?
I didn't think so. To me, after studying this case for as long as we have, and being on that balcony and knowing, one other thing I should point out, when looking down at the balcony and the awning, you could actually see about a 4-foot box where they had clearly painted over something. And you got to imagine that if we know that they've painted over what was that blood spot, we're looking at essentially where he potentially fell. And, one other thing I want to say is, looking over that balcony, I thought, okay, if it's 4 a.m. and my wife had fallen over this ledge and I wanted to get down there quickly, how could I do it? So there's a couple scenarios. I could, A, go down to the 7th floor and knock on a couple rooms frantically, which if somebody were doing that night, you'd have to wake a lot of people up. If you wanted to do it on the stealth, that gets more complicated. And actually, I searched for about 2 days, and I couldn't figure out how to get on that awning.
Couldn't figure out to get on that awning. So what that suggests is, well, I'll tell you what, I don't want to answer the questions. Let me bring in Walt here. Walt, obviously you're a law enforcement officer. You were on that cruise. Something just doesn't sound right here. Does it add up to you that this guy could have fallen overboard because he was drunk or because he was trying to commit suicide?
Well, absolutely not, Joe. First of all, the theory of someone committing suicide on this cruise is preposterous. Somebody doesn't get married and spends all this money on this cruise and then commits suicide. We've had reports of a struggle in that room, loud noises going on. We have reports of blood in the room. There is a lot of indication here and a lot of evidence that suggests that there was a crime committed here. We've heard that there was blood on the bed, on the towel, as well as on the floor in the room as well. So the bleeding started in the room and continued over the railing and onto that canopy.
Clint Van Zandt, it just doesn't add up. When you're looking at this as a former FBI agent, what are you looking for? Where are the inconsistencies? Where do you go with the investigation?
Well, part of the inconsistencies, Joe, are going to be in the stories that you get, in the suspects. That's one of the first things the chief or I would do working a case like this. You get everyone who has any knowledge, you lock them into a statement, and then you start to compare the statements, and you use that to create a timeline. When you start to find someone who's changed their story or whose story is inconsistent with all the other facts, one time maybe, two times, gee, heck of a coincidence, three or more times, if you start to find these inconsistencies in your timeline, then you've got a problem. I agree with the chief, this is not a suicide type case. The challenge is this a horrible, horrible type of accident that has never been seen before like this, or is this in fact foul play? And I think that's what the FBI is working hard to put together, the timeline, the witness statements, everything else to suggest, is this foul play, and if so, who's responsible?
Clint, I want to put up right now a video of somebody that was on the cruise. He was actually a crew member on the cruise. Reports are that this man that you see with the short hair that works in the casino left with George Smith IV's wife. Many people believe that she was very drunk. Some people wondered whether the crew was working with other people to try to separate the two. But Clint, Rich McHugh, our producer that went on board, brings up a very interesting point. It is extremely difficult to find the awning that George Smith IV fell onto. Said it took him several days to figure out exactly where it was. Does that suggest that maybe somebody with intimate knowledge of this cruise ship was able to figure out how to get onto the awning and possibly get rid of the body?
Well, that's one of the facts you have to consider, Joe. Now, there are multiple scenarios. One, of course, is through some tragic accident, George Smith fell over the side, injured himself on this awning, perhaps had fallen in his room and then fell over the side, laid there for a while, tried to get up, and then zigged in when he should have zagged and fall all the way over the side. Now, the cruise line may well want us to believe that, and that may be the case, but the next one is, if he got there by nefarious purposes, if someone pushed him, shoved him, threw him over the side, and he hit there and laid and started to bleed out, then can you put yourself in a role of the offender? You look over the side and you say, that guy is laying there and he's the one witness that can link me in. Then you've got to figure out a way to get him off that awning. Or you like Rich, you're a passenger, you don't know how to find that. It takes you hours perhaps to figure out how to get over. Do you drop over the side like Batman and let yourself down to the awning? Or if on your yellow legal pad, Joe, one half said maybe a crew member, the other half said maybe the suspects, the other suspects we have. If, in fact, you think it takes crew knowledge to get that awning, then you have to look at the suspects from the casino.
That certainly is what it's looking like to me. Thanks
Can I
so
jump
much.
in here for a sec, Joe?
Certainly.
One thing I didn't say last night in my conversation with Lloyd and Christian, the casino manager and the blackjack dealer, is that I said, well, your timeline doesn't gel up with this other timeline. What do you think happened? And they both kind of said, we don't know, but we, probably fell overboard. He was smoking a cigar and fell overboard. And I said, okay, you honestly believe that? And they said, yeah.
Well, you know what? That's just more of the same. That's when somebody disappears on these cruise ships, you always have the cruise line lawyer saying that it was either a suicide or somebody got drunk and fell overboard. It just doesn't wash here. Rich McHugh, Walt Salisco, and Clint Van Zandt, thanks so much for being with us tonight. Right now,